Hi everyone. We're on to the other half of the verbal section now of the GRE. The big takeaways from the reading comprehension questions section in this module are these. Vocabulary is generally less of a challenge on the reading comprehension questions than on the sentence completion portion of the GRE verbal section. You remember earlier I said that growing your vocabulary, learning new words is necessary for everyone taking the GRE. But in this reading comprehension section, they do not want vocabulary, unfamiliar words, to get in the way of testing your reading comprehension skills, so they actually try to avoid difficult vocabulary words. The reading comprehension section is full of either words you already know from your college reading, familiar words, or they're challenging words, but they're defined within context, making the meaning pretty apparent. Second big takeaway from this section, be sure to study how to read for this section. I know that sounds strange, how to read, but it's different. It's different from reading a textbook for your courses. The reading for the GRE, reading comprehension section, it's a new skill that you really do have to practice. Think of this reading comprehension part of the GRE like an open book test. The passage stays right there in front of you as you answer your questions. So we read differently. Read the passage as fast as you can with understanding. Then the passage will stay there right in front of you as you answer questions. Know that you can always go back to the passage to answer any question, just like in an open book test. Now, reading in this way is a test-taking skill that you might need to practice, because you must resist the temptation to read to memorize, like you've done for years when you read the textbook for a typical class, knowing later you're going to be tested over this material and you won't have the textbook available. So you read to memorize. For GRE reading comprehension questions, we don't need to do that. The passage is going to be right there. It's an open book test. We read fast and we read for short-term retention only. This is a different skill. It is a practice skill. On the GRE, remember that when you finish the questions on a certain passage, the passage is over, gone, done with. You'll never need it again. So there's no need to waste your time and energy memorizing details. My point is this. Reading for this section is a new skill that you must practice. Don't read to memorize. That takes too long. Read fast and read for short-term retention only. The next big takeaway in this section, guys, notice that the approach for what are called logical reasoning questions. They're these really short passages, about a paragraph long, 3 to 5 sentences. The approach to these are different. Logical reasoning questions, short reading passages, about 3 to 5 sentences that make a concise argument. In contrast to my recommendation a minute ago to read fast, for logical reasoning questions, you want to slow down and read each argument very carefully. Read each passage very carefully. And it's okay, because it's a very short passage, 3 to 5 sentences. Logical reasoning questions ask you to pick up a subtle flaw in the author's logic, or to detect an author's assumption to an argument. So you have to be able to analyze the argument very carefully and often make some very subtle judgments. So for these things called logical reasoning questions, only slow down and read carefully. Everything else in the reading comprehension section, read fast and for short-term comprehension, short-term retention only. And finally, one last point here before we go. Be sure to learn the 7 major question types. In your notes, I believe Tactic 2. There are only 7 possible types of questions to expect in this reading comprehension section, guys. That's all. There's only 7 types. You know in advance what the questions are going to be. One of these 7 questions, and 4 are more likely than the other 7, than the other 3. After some practice, you'll actually carry these 7 questions around in your head as you are reading each passage. So that gives you a real advantage. Be sure to learn the 7 major question types to expect in the reading comprehension section. So the summary of this big takeaways from the reading comprehension section here, guys. Number 1, notice vocabulary words are generally less of a challenge in the reading comprehension section. Most words will be familiar to you. Number 2, reading for this section is a new skill that you must practice. Don't read to memorize. That takes too long. Read fast and read for short-term retention only, with the exception of the logical reasoning questions. And finally, remember that there are only 7 possible types of questions that you can be asked. about a reading passage. That's all. Those are the big takeaways from the reading comprehension questions section in this module. Thank you.